Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Dublin-born New York City violinist Gregory Harrington. This cat raises the bar for violinists in the 21st century, and he talked at length about his highly anticipated fourth album, Without You, comprised of 11 emotionally charged tracks of reimagined pop and jazz love songs. This album is dedicated to the artist's late father and will be released on June 7th, 2019, in time for Father's Day. With his broad musical range, he has the unique ability to translate popular jazz, rock, and pop music to violin virtuosity, juxtaposing Bach and Bob Dylan, Beethoven and Leonard Cohen, Ravel and Radiohead. His cross-cultural and wide-reaching appeal has brought him to perform for presidents and vice presidents, celebrities, heads of state, the United Nations, and millions of pop and jazz music fans around the globe. So please get to know him and dig this interview, my friends.
Gregory, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz, man. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, too.
You bet. So let's go ahead and let's dive into the album that will be coming out, well, on June 7th, Without You. And the thing about this album is that there's so many elements of musicians that have obviously been influential on you, that have been a part of who you're paying homage to and what you're doing. So talk to me about this release and what your vision was.
You know, I grew up and I've been for many years purely classical, and whether that's performing Beethoven concerti or Brahms or all the beautiful classical works. And about 8, 9, well, I've always listened to a plethora of genres. I mean, I've loved Miles Davis growing up, and I've loved that Frank Sinatra sound, and many other, from U2 to Jeff Buckley to, Chris Isaak. There's been all this. Once you get beautiful music, it really resonates. So I think about 8, 9 years ago, I started doing arrangements and arranging a little bit more popular music, some U2 stuff, some Sinead O'Connor, and then I started doing stuff for jazz quartet. So Etta James, I thought that At Last piece, or being fascinated by John Coltrane. So spending a number of years just listening, studying, and just trying to be that first violinist that successfully crossed over from classical to a lighter, smooth jazz, for want of a better word.
Talk to me a little bit about how you got into the violin in your childhood in Dublin.
It was when I was really young. I was about 4 years old, and I was at this horse show, this international horse show with my mum, and there was a string quartet playing, and I was just drawn to the sound. So I just remember tugging her arm and saying, "Mom, I want to play this." So very next day, I was probably knee-high to a grasshopper, as they say. But very next day, I came home and we went into the city and we bought a little tiny violin, and I didn't look back.
Talk to me a little bit about musical influences earlier on. Obviously, for our purposes on a jazz show, jazz would be nice. But just what musical influences, albums were you listening to that really got you going?
My Kind of Blue is an incredible album. That was one that just always just resonated, and just because of the sound, the soundscape that he created was just phenomenal, and the things that he did. As I say, Coltrane as well. Coltrane was just, in a very, very different way, that sort of beautiful concept of sound. The other albums that I would listen to, are nothing in particular, but it's because what I would always think of would be what makes an artist unique. What's the sound that they create? What's that sort of harmonic transgression that they do, or journey that they take you on? So Charlie Parker, beautiful just array of gifts. So yeah, I would say it, but everything really comes back to me to Miles Davis.
Wonderful. So obviously, since you wanted to be involved with the violin very early on, is it a foregone conclusion to say that you saw yourself being a musician, or were there other dreams?
I think, when I was growing up, I played a lot of tennis, played a lot of rugby. Rugby is not necessarily the best thing for your hands if you want to be a musician. So early on, I think violin was the goal, and I think as you grow up, you evolve. So I always wanted to be in front of people. I always wanted to be on a stage, and I always wanted to be in that position where I could communicate with others.
The violin is one of those niche kind of instruments in the world of jazz, especially. I mean, there's been many luminaries that have been a part of it, and there's a lot of the cats out there that are doing it today, but it's still one of those things that you don't see as commonly as you do other instruments. So I want to know from you, how instrumental is that violin sound in jazz? What does the violin sound do to a jazz song, in your estimation?
I think that the violin is the closest thing you can have to a voice, the human voice. And if you can, make it sing and use it as a conduit to communicate with an audience, I think that's the first and foremost, the most important thing. Because if it's just purely technical, no matter what instrument you have, nobody's going to like it. So it has to come from your heart, from your soul, and go right through to the soul of the person in the audience. With a violin, specifically, there's nuances to this in terms of the subtlety of a beautiful slide or color. There's so many colors you can get with a violin, and I think it actually brings a very distinct flavor to jazz. And this album is the set of tracks are more, from When I Fall in Love to The Nearness of You or It Never Entered My Mind. They're more just this longing and beautiful. You can change and shift colors on a note and within phrases. So it gives this unique quality, I think.
The one thing about your career is that you've performed for presidents, vice presidents, celebrities, heads of state, United Nations. So my question to you is this. What's been a response from one of these people after they've heard you? Or what's been an interesting encounter or story that's happened as a result of you playing for some of these people?
The beautiful part of this is it's music is this language where you don't need an alphabet, and it either connects or it doesn't. Playing in concert halls is one thing, and it's incredible when you get the feedback of an audience. But when you're doing a private event or a much smaller one-on-one, or whether it's for example, a president or one of the great sporting teams, their reaction has been phenomenal. It's been really, really phenomenal because it's violin imagined in a way that they haven't heard it before, and I think that's what they love about it.
The one thing you mentioned, too, that's very key is that this isn't an alphabet. This is something that you feel within you. It's the unifying language. And you've been all over. You perform for a lot of people. What is so important about music for the global population and being someone that performs it live for people?
Well, I think in any audience, there is, if nothing else, there's always one person that really needs it. Somebody that needs music to come into their life that very day and be a beautiful part of their life and uplift them and whatnot. If you can do that to one person, job done. And that's all the satisfaction that you need. If you can have an impact on many, many, many people, well, that's a beautiful feeling. And I think first and foremost, you want to just make this experience, whether it's concert, whether it's somebody closing their eyes and listening to the CD or the album, you want to give them that transformative experience where they can just go somewhere else and forget and just go with the beauty of where the music takes them.
One of the reasons why the world knows and recognizes Dublin the way it is because of you, too, and you get the chance to cover with or without you. What's that like to pay homage to such, it's local for you, but, it's global for all of us. What is it like to be able to cover people like that?
It's incredible because, for such a small little country, we are prolific when it comes to the arts, whether it's writers or artists or actors. And you, too, it's this global icon that I think as an Irish nation we are so, so proud of. Anybody can get up there and be remotely successful. That's something to be applauded. But the genuine success that they have had for decades is phenomenal. So choosing this piece, it's a really, really cool juxtaposition between wanting to be on the road and wanting to be with your loved ones. And it's just a phenomenal piece. So it was something that I loved doing, and I love doing in concerts and love performing.
So when a fan picks up this new album and listens to it, what feeling do you want them to get? What do you want them to take away from what you're doing on this album?
When a fan listens to this, one of the things would be, the reaction of, I've never heard this before, and this is incredible. To take them in a place to challenge them to, for example, Hallelujah. Anybody can do this a Jeff Buckley cover. It really won't challenge anybody to listen. But if you do something where nobody's done it before, and people will either love it or not like it, but at least you give them that opportunity to have the opinion of, I love what he's doing, I love where he's taking this, And that's really all I want. You know, I just want someone to be able to sit back, relax, and enjoy it and say, yeah, I want to hear more.
Early on in your life, what was one of the first live shows, jazz or otherwise, that you watched that really moved you?
I think when I was early on, there was a video of, way before internet, and I think this was a video of Dave Brubeck. I think he was doing Blue Rondo. And I remember just thinking it was something that was completely alien to me at the time, but I just loved, I said, well, that's really, really cool. And as a classical musician, where we are so ingrained on the the preciseness of every single meaning and note, and to go from that to the complete and utter freedom was quite mind-boggling at the time. And I didn't understand it then, but it was just something that I remember and I really loved.
So tell me, why do you love jazz?
There is a freedom, there is a beauty of communication, there is a warmth, and there's just a whole world of interpretation you can seek in these pieces.
My final question to you is this, to kind of get to the essence of you. Everyone has a version or an interpretation of who they think you are. Your family, your friends, your fans, but you know yourself best. Tell me, who do you think you are?
When I walk on stage, I would love to think that I am this person who adores to communicate, who adores the warmth that music allows everybody to be around. And I think if somebody can come and see a show of mine and just say, that was awesome, that was wonderful, and I loved the experience from start to finish, I think that's really what it's all about.
Beautiful. Gregory, hey, thanks for opening up about the new album. Good luck with it, and thank you for talking about your life and music. I appreciate it.
Joe, thank you so much for having me. Continued success to you.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview. We give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Dublin, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Gregory for his time, his music, and his stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.